the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
And we are your hairy, heavy homos that talk about comic books, but you don't have to be a hairy, heavy homo to listen in or possibly stream in. And yes, we're coming to you on a Sunday night because nothing else worked this week.
It was a crazy busy week, I think, for everybody.
We do have lives. Oh.
So, well, at least we're, for anybody who's able to watch us live, awesome. But, as per usual, it's going to be on YouTube, on our YouTube channel afterwards. So you can check us out then anytime. And then, of course, you'll get the audio episode like we usually do at the end of the month. Which we're at the end of the month.
We're at the end of the month, so we're recording this on Sunday night.
Time is flying.
You're going to get an audio episode of the previous episode tomorrow morning and an audio episode of this episode on Tuesday morning.
Yes.
So that we're all caught up.
But this week, this month flew by, and this week I know was busy for everybody. And Caleb, you had visitors this whole week.
I did, yeah. I had a whole household full of nieces and nephews up for spring break, and kids over, from the other side of the family coming up to play golf and stuff like that too. So we had a good time, whole crew.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Also had to go out and do yard work. So if I sound like I'm talking through a hose, it's because I've been snorting lines of pollen in my backyard. Okay. And it's kicking my ass right now.
Pollen, yeah.
Yes.
Pollen.
Okay. In Arkansas, you can't help it. It's just raining tree sex here.
It's, when you walk outside, North Carolina is kind of the same. You walk outside and your car is green. There's nothing you can do. In the spring, it's green. In the fall, it's yellow.
We don't really have too much of it in Jersey,
Oh, lucky you.
Pockets, depending upon what tree you're under, but not so much.
Got all those.
Where I live, a distinctive feature of where I live are black squirrels. I don't know if you have them in your area, but I grew up in North Jersey.
We have them in our neighborhood.
We didn't have them in North Jersey, so when I moved down here, I was like, "Are those fucking rats running up the tree?" I was like, "What the hell? Why didn't anyone tell me? You gotta tell me these things. I don't like surprises."
Yeah.
We
just have tons of gray squirrels. We used to have a lot of chipmunks, but then we got owls and hawks, so we don't have chipmunks anymore.
Yeah,
we haven't had
owls.
We have 25 years.
We have swan. I think swan is the plural of a swan. Am I correct? I don't know.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah, but we have swans over here.
Swans.
Yeah, they're mean. Oh, they're mean.
Swan's eye.
I love watching them chase kids. That's one of my favorite things, because you guys know, and for anybody watching know, that I have this little quirk of like my favorite thing in the world is videos of animals knocking over children. I could watch that all day long, like all day long. It gives me pleasure beyond words to watch that stuff. And we almost had it with that a couple times with neighbors' kids. I was totally team swan.
We have possums.
Yeah. Some possums, especially
we just have possums.
The farmland. Yeah.
Now, if possums start running over,
we get
children,
the videos of the kids walking out on the front. Well, no, we like the video. That's what I'm saying. We have the possums around here that do that. We'll get videos every year of like kids in the corner with just a possum hissing at them, just like help.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's just so weird because it's like not the end of a work day, and you're like, I don't know how you guys have been. I've been pummeled these last few weeks of work.
This week kind of took a turn. I had to go into the office for the first time in a few months.
Yeah.
To talk to a new person who was coming in from the headquarters to just kind of check with us, and then. Craziness happened, and I was dealing with the craziness, trying to clean that up up until Friday afternoon, and it was just nonstop. So, yeah, fun.
Yeah. My work stuff, it would take, if I started on it, it'll be like 7:18 when I finish. So I'm not even going to talk about it. Not
Work, blah. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about comics and all sorts of stuff.
I will say, though, that there are some developments that when I come signing in on Monday, I'm not going to be like, so
Well, that's good.
One thing is better. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So comic books. Yeah.
We
Unfortunately, I haven't seen like a really good repository. And this is one thing, as much as people slam Bleeding Cool, it usually is a very good resource for distilling news from conventions. But I think maybe because we're hitting it with the Sunday and WonderCon hasn't finished and C2E2
Right.
it probably just finished at this point. You know, that we haven't had like some really good news bites. I've seen some stuff about Williamson's Legion of Superheroes and some plans for the Absolute Universe, but I haven't seen, and I know Marvel had some announcements too, but I just haven't seen a good distillation of it. So we'll probably have to talk about that on the next show.
Yeah, I like Comics Beat. I think I think it does a.
I was going to say,
newsletter.
the beat's really good. I try to follow them.
Yeah, their newsletter is pretty good. But again, we'll probably get a summary of it tomorrow morning. Everything that went on with C2E2 and WonderCon. If there's, any big news stories, it'll probably be there.
Yeah.
As well. But yeah, I mean, Bleeding Cool, very active comments section. So go read those if you will or not.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, between Bleeding Cool and the Beat, that's where I get most of my news.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always some interesting stuff that they find.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll do that coverage next time. And again, we're going to be going headlong into con season, so this is where all the announcements are going to be starting to pile up until we get to Heroes Con, obviously, but until we get to San Diego Comic-Con, which is usually when like the last summer, like big summer announces happen, and then New York Comic-Con. And Baltimore usually are like the end of the year.
It's so funny talking about Comics Beat and Bleeding Cool. It's making me really wax nostalgic for Newsarama.
Yeah, I love Newsarama.
I really like Newsarama, and it was very, because Bleeding Cool has the gossipy edge. Comics Beat, I find them though they're like a good resource. They're kind of bland. They don't want to offend. They rarely take a stand on issues. And Newsarama like just had a really nice balance between the two of like, calling stuff out when it warranted being called out, but not being sensationalistic about it. Yeah. I really like Newsarama.
Well, they also had some really good like retrospective articles as well. So they would take a topic and just kind of go through the history of, whatever. And it was always fun to read those.
Idiots on their comics board. I mean, absolute dumbasses, but the site itself I thought was really good.
Yeah. I liked some of the writers a lot. So, but yeah, it's tough. Listeners have their
not everybody with an
things.
internet connection really have a lot to put out there.
True. Not only that, but also you've got a lot of articles now that are just kind of compiled by AI at this point. So, and that just keep getting reshared on different sites over and over because they're all kind of connected. So, if you're not going on one of these independent sites or one of these, major news sites, and Newsarama used to be, I guess, part of the AOL network, but then they got kind of absorbed into other
Games
things.
Radar, right? Whatever their parent company is. Yeah. Shame.
So
it's a shame.
You see a lot of repeat and
it was interesting at the tail end of last year. You started seeing AI reviews of comics, and that seemed to stop really quick. Where it was just obvious that this was not a human being who had eyes on this stuff. And I'm not going to call out the outlets that had that, but I'm very happy that was something that was very short lived.
Right. So, but yeah, if any listeners, have any favorite news sites, or even news news accounts. I mean, Twitter used to be a go-to, obviously now not so much,
Yeah.
but Blue Sky does have some people and has some announcements on there as well. I haven't found all of them, but I've if you follow a couple authors
Yeah.
or writers or
Threads-
artists, you'll get some
Threads seems to like trend older comic reader. I think that's fair to say.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So like our age.
Well, I would say my age. I'm so old. Scott. I'm so old. Oh God.
I'm not that far behind you, Bill.
You're far enough. You're far enough.
And see, I feel like there's got to be like Discord threads and things too, and I just don't use that platform. Like that seems like, I'm sure there's a Discord thing that's like more up to date than anything. We just don't tap into it.
But also like
I mean, like we as the comics community have not launched any platform like that from it.
Yeah, not that's like a centralized spot. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, that's not the.
Yeah,
it's a go-to, and there's Substack is what Substack is. It's very ghettoized is a terrible word to use, but it's very regimented. It seems like a bunch
siloed
of boards.
Siloed. It's very siloed.
Siloed,
is a good way to you find your thing.
Ghettos is not the best word to use.
Silos. Well, and like people use that for like just regular updates. Like I know a lot of people do that with like a Patreon. Like with a Patreon, you get my Substack and you can read my monthly newsletter, and so that's more so what it is. I mean, and there's not a ton of just announcements or anything that get thrown out there either. It's all pay for play stuff.
Yeah, but I know that there are places to get your news. Conventions are always great if you're there sitting in the panel when a publisher or an artist or or a writer makes that announcement and says, hey, this is what I've got coming down the line, or when Boom Studios or Vault or anybody just kind of they talk about their initiatives for the first time in a con panel. It's kind of cool because then you're getting it before it ends up on a website or ends up tweeted or skeeted about by somebody. And Caleb loves the fact that Blue Sky, they've been trying to call it skeeting. And I agree. That's what I've heard most people
like somewhere a little honest for copyright infringement.
Little John out there. It is not yours to use. But cool.
You want to talk some comics?
I think we could talk some comics. I think we have some
kind of like just a little teeny tiny bit more under the wire than usual because of some plans here. So I'm going to start off the discussion, and I'm going to start off the discussion with probably the premiere book that came out this past Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And we have had since a new era of detente has been instituted between DC and Marvel, starting with the memorial edition for the George Perez JLA Avengers collection, continuing into Batman Deadpool and Deadpool Batman. We now have Superman Spider-Man, which is the first one. And Steve, if you have the graphic there, this is the main cover by Jimenez. And there's about seriously 17 million variant covers for this. There's just so many. The one that I did pick up, because my copy of this is not coming till my next DCBS box, but this was something where I just couldn't wait. I had to have it in my hand. So I did get a variant that was from Adam Hughes of Supergirl and Spider-Woman on there. And seriously, it was so hard between this and the Supermobile and the Spider-Mobile. It was so hard. There's a lot of clever concepts involved in the variant covers that they provided for this. So like the previous editions, the Batman Deadpool editions, there's a main story that anchors what are by and large, some pretty good backups through this. And the thing that I loved about this the most is it has the fans in mind. It really does. It's a celebration of what makes mainstream comics great. There's so many winks, and it's also very nice to know that if you don't get the wink, you're still going to enjoy it because you're going to pick up on the spirit, even if these are characters you're not really familiar with. So the main story is Superman and Spider-Man. And to cut to the chase, what happens is Doc Ock is working on a malevolent scheme, and that gets corrupted by something he was not anticipating. And that something he was not anticipating was Brainiac. So Clark Kent and Peter Parker are working on the same story. They have press passes for Star Labs, and lo and behold, there's been some kryptonite that's been stolen. And that's where the trail led to Doc Ock. The actual mechanics of that story are really secondary to the humor and the, just the playfulness of the Superman Spider-Man relationship. Spider-Man's a little, he's a bit younger than Superman is, so there's a bit of a looking up to aspect in their interactions. And you'll see here they're going off on this mission together, and you'll see hey, wait up. And though we don't have the next panel, it's basically Peter saying to himself, I bet he's not this hard on Batman. So you have the story of them teaming up, a classic team up, to defeat this new threat, this combined threat of Doc Ock and Brainiac. And there's a really inspired sequence where, because of the kryptonite and Superman is somewhat weakened, that Spider-Man really has to, he really has to take the lead in getting this done. And the line when it was like one of those, like, all the feels, when Clark says, "Don't worry, I believe in you, Peter." Because Peter is, he's like, he always has a bonus coupon of insecurities, and to get a vote of confidence from what is effectively an authority figure, Peter is in top form from that point on. Steve, I think you may have some other graphics there. If you can just keep going there. Yeah. So this is where they find, that the kryptonite is affecting him, and it's all through Metropolis. So they, they're kind of stuck. They have to do this, but they have to work on this together. And, it's those classic Peter, with the way Peter characterizes things. I thought you and Gravity had an arrangement, just really cute stuff. I think you might have one other graphic down. That's from a later story. So that main story is by Mark Waid with art by Jorge Jimenez, who is, renowned right now for his work on Batman. It has been for a few years.
Yep.
So some of the backups, I'm just going to read them off to you, because even me giving you the names is going to give you a sense of what that story is like. And one thing I really liked about this more than the Batman Deadpool is they stuck within the Superman and Spider-Man worlds. So you have Lois Lane and Mary Jane in a story by Tom King that is penciled by Jim Lee. There is a wonderful meta story of Superboy Prime and early symbiote era Peter Parker, Amazing Spider-Man, written by Christopher Priest, that is very meta, very, very clever. The story that I think is getting the most press, because I don't want to spin out too much from this, and you actually have a scene from it there. Superboy and Spider-Man 2099 by Sean Murphy is the writer-artist. And I actually gave you a little bit too much there. Sorry. So there is a bit of a wink there. It's not just a Superboy and Spider-Man 2099 team up. As you can see there, you also have Terry McGinnis. You also have Batman Beyond. And when you think of what the supposed timeline is, that probably fits for Spider-Man 2099 and Batman Beyond at this point. In what is a really cool continuation of a sense of Matt Fraction's Jimmy Olsen series from a few years ago. He's reteamed with Steve Lieber, and the title of the story is Jimmy Concarnage. And it's a bit bittersweet. Some heavy stuff goes on, but let's just say Jimmy kind of beats Peter Parker at his own game and temporarily moving to New York and ending up working at the Daily Bugle instead of the Daily Planet. The Daily Planet and the Daily Bugle are also a story that involves Lois Lane and J. Jonah Jameson on a kind of CNN MS Now type of talking heads point counterpoint battle. And that's written by Greg Rucka with art by Nicola Scott. One of the absolute standouts, Jonathan Kent and Ben Parker, before Peter and Clark came into their lives. Jonathan is at home, a visitor from New York. Ben Parker needs some help with his car, and there's more going on than that. It's a wonderful story named The Bridge, which is written by Jeff Lemire with art by Rafael Sandoval. All the feels in that one. And then one of the most surprising ones, Power Girl and the Punisher. The title's Blind Date. It's written by Gail Simone with art by Belen Ortega. I was trying to think, like, what do these characters really have in common? And then it hit me, they're both created by Jerry Conway. Power Girl and Punisher. And the scenario is Punisher is sort of on a mission, let's put it that way, but he's appearing to be a bouncer at this weird club where Kara, Power Girl, is going on a blind date. Not everything is as it seems, but there's a kind of like moment at the end that I'm just going to leave for everybody to enjoy. I know I sped through this really, really quickly because we have still 5 more books to talk about, but I just want to emphasize to people, if you just love mainstream comics, this is so conceived for you. And I can't wait for Spider-Man Superman. I am really behind on the digital only stories that have come out on the Marvel and the DC apps. I know those are going to be collected after this stuff is done, but books like this is why we got into comics. It really is, and I can't speak highly enough.
Yeah,
can't speak highly enough about it.
I was going to say, I love the fact, like, that cover looks like a classic cover. Like, that cover, we could reference that in 20 years. Like, you will remember that cover. I think it's just that
yeah.
In a world where covers don't really matter, or the standard cover with Soups and them on it. In a world where covers don't really matter, that feels like just a quintessential cover of those characters, because we never thought we'd see it happen again. So,
yep. I would even say, if people have strayed from mainstream comics and have mostly been in the indie world, but this was still your first steps in, it's not a bad peek back in. It really isn't. Because there's not a lot of heavy lifting. There's not a lot of commitment. It's a one shot. But to open this up, and I hate that kind of thing of like feeling like a kid again, blah, 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 blah. It's overused. But throughout my life, the moments where I felt happiest as a comic book reader, it caters to all of those, to all of them. So big recommendation on this.
Awesome. I remember when I was a kid, I did get one of the treasuries that they had put out with Superman and Spider-Man together. I can't remember which one. Yeah, and I remember reading that was probably one of the first comic related things that I had seen as a little kid. But I have no idea where it went to. It was probably destroyed massively by Baby Brother or who knows. So, and I didn't even, like, in my head, when I think about reading it and when I think about like what I understood from it or what I kind of recognized from it, I think I was just sort of like, oh, these are really cool. And then I can see the cartoons. Like it wasn't kind of like in my like in my understanding. I was reading, a really cool comic crossover between two titans of the industry, until much later. But I think it's cool that they can do it again. This is I think probably maybe the third iteration of a team up. You had the ones like the older ones in the treasuries. You had the Amalgam. Yeah, Amalgam Comics.
Caleb, just to fill you in, when we talked about this way back, and one of our former co-hosts had a penchant for mispronouncing things. So Amalgam Comics became Amaglam. And that's since then that's all we've referred to it. But yeah, I agree with you, Steve. You had that initial burst that kind of finished with New Teen Titans, X-Men, and then the aborted JLA Avengers, and then that next period, which was DC versus Marvel straight through to JLA Avengers. And some of the enthusiasm for this also it's been so long.
Yeah,
that we've had.
I mean, it has been what, almost 30 years?
JLA Avengers has to be at least 20 years old.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. More than that, I thought.
Okay.
I believe so. Yeah. If not 30 years old. And what I love too, there's this whole thing with these characters. They've gone beyond comics now, right? So these aren't just superheroes for comics fans. These are both like monolithic pop culture icons at this point. And so to me, a moment like this, it's just as prescient as Superman and Muhammad Ali. That famous cover. When you get back into it and the stuff, like they have this presence in our popular culture. And so I think it's cool from that aspect, beyond just the fact that these are comic book, kind of the flagships of their comic book universes. It's just these big figures in our culture.
Yeah. Yeah, I just checked. JLA Avengers is 23 years ago.
23.
So
long.
She can drink.
So long ago.
Yeah.
I could drink then, yeah. Oh, wow.
Shut up. Okay.
I was legal in 2001, okay? Well, actually, technically, I was legal in 1998 because I was in Canada. So.
I was legal before Caleb was born.
I'm not going to do that math. That's a trap.
Oh.
All I ask is just remember me if I'm if I'm in a nursing home somewhere, just rescue me, please.
Oh.
Just
we'll be there.
In the back room. I'll be like Fonzie above the garage,
Oh.
All right. Well, let's turn our attention to one of the
retirement bear cave.
We'll kind of distill it. And Steve, you have a book from the absolute world that you want to bring.
Yeah. And I always wonder if people are just going to get sick and tired of us talking about how good and amazing and just incredible and creative and beautiful the absolute line of titles are. They are, and they keep surprising me and surprising all of us, I think, month after month. You have the Trinity, I think, is probably like the top three, obviously, but an absolute Martian Manhunter is incredible, going into its second volume that they didn't think that they'd be able to do, but the response has been so great. Absolute Flash by Jeff Lemire, and Absolute Green Lantern still going. And there's still interesting stories, and now we've got some more absolute titles that are coming down the pike. So, but one of the flagship titles, Absolute Wonder Woman, just like Absolute Batman a few months back, has a new or very recent annual issue for 2026, and so I wanted to talk about the Absolute Wonder Woman annual. If I can pull it up here, and we can actually look at it for those of you who are following along on video. If you're following along on audio, this is I guess probably pointless for you, but I just want to go through and show the how beautiful the cover is on this one. This is the main cover. There are several other variant covers that are gorgeous as well. But this one is just, I think it's just so dynamic. I think this is also I think this cover as well was done by Mattia De Iulis, who also did the interior art for the issue. But it's just beautiful, and it actually happens inside this issue. This isn't one of those like interpretive kind of things for the characters. This is actually a scene from inside this issue. And what happens in this issue? Well, pretty basically, since issue number 5 in Absolute Wonder Woman, she was able to, as one of the ways that she was able to defeat the giant, hell creature that was about ready to destroy the city, she was able to channel the power of Medusa. And actually channel not just the power, but also the being of Medusa through herself. And in doing so, it affected her. Not some lingering power effects or, she's turning people to stone or anything like that, but the emotional weight of what it meant to be Medusa, what it meant to be cursed in this way, to have her, just a glance from her be able to turn somebody to stone. And so the great part about this book, and there's a beautiful splash page right at the beginning where it shows Diana, praying to Athena multiple times in multiple places through different means to help Medusa. Hear my prayer, help Medusa, free her from her curse. And in doing so, she eventually does get Athena's attention. I think because Athena is just sick and tired of hearing Diana talk about it over and over and over again. So she calls Diana into her realm, brings with the avatar of the owl that Athena is known for, and Diana follows the owl until she's in the presence of Athena herself, who, the way that De Iulis draws her here is that she has all of the aspects of an owl and an angel together, just this very beautiful godlike being. The image that I have up now does not do this justice. There is a beautiful 2-page spread of Athena in her golden armor with her claws and her talons and this gorgeous helmet, just floating in front of Diana, and it's breathtaking.
Yeah, Steve, there is part of me that wants to just open it up and show people, but there's also a part of me that wants people to have that experience to be a pure,
pick it up. Yes, pick up this issue.
Experience.
100%.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
I mean, we spoil so much in when we talk about these issues, but this is one where I think the splash page, if I know Caleb, you love original art. I love prints that bring in all the full color, all the full impact of this 2-page spread. And if I had the opportunity to get a print of those 2 pages, I absolutely would to hang on my wall. Just because it's so well designed, it's got the impact to it. So Diana here, of course, in awe of this goddess who also was part of her growing up. I mean, this goddess helped her a lot, but also mentored her when she was on that island in hell with Circe as a small girl. And so she goes to her and she's like, look, I understand that myths are kind of funky. Like, you don't know who to really believe. The myth is twisted throughout the years, and sometimes the wrong person is kind of accused here of being the reason behind some horrible thing that happens in the myth. And that is the case here with the myth of Medusa. In the myth that most people know, Medusa is cursed by Athena for her vanity and other things, to basically turn people into stone. Snake in her hair, all that stuff. We all kind of know Medusa. But Athena basically says here, that wasn't me. So, hey, I'm not gonna Like, the reason I haven't been answering your prayers is because I had nothing to do with that. But I can help you as long as I'm not implicated in this, because that would be kind of giving countenance to this false myth that I had something to do with her curse. But as long as you do it, then I guess we're good. And so Diana asks her for a boon and is able to go find Medusa and her sisters to essentially save or heal and end the curse for Medusa. And I am going to bring this page up. It does kind of spoil things for those of you who are watching, but it is one of the reasons why Kelly Thompson is such a brilliant writer. And just in this one page, she choked me up and had like tears in my eyes in just a few words. And the interaction between Diana and Medusa here, it's so simple and yet it's so profound. And I think this just, again, is one of the reasons why Absolute Wonder Woman, and, you know, all the Absolute books, they have creative teams that understand these characters in ways that a lot of times sort of, you know, you don't always get in the standard DC universe books. And that's not to say that the other standard, you know, the other DC books are not getting these characters that don't get Wonder Woman. But when you have an author, when you have a writer and an artist who can create magic on the page and really bring out what makes Wonder Woman an important figure, an important character in the 80 plus years that she's been around, and can do it in one page. And just, you know, just show how masterful their storytelling is with this character. It's the reason why the Absolute books are always the first on the top of my pile, and are the first ones I always read every time I grab my books from the store, because I know that I'm going to be impressed, I'm going to be blown away, and I'm going to be emotionally, I'm going to be emotionally moved, by some of the stories that I read in there. So this Absolute Wonder Woman annual, it is a single story. So there's no, backups or anything like that. There is a preview for a Batman book, but really when you pick this up, you're just getting solid story and in that one tale. And it is very powerful. It kind of comes, I think Bill, I'd say it like canonically, it comes a little bit after she teamed up with Batman, Absolute Batman. So, but
she actually referenced Bruce a couple times.
She does. She's pretty funny. There's a couple funny asides about, I don't know how Bruce does this, but really you can read this after you've read issue 5 of the main series, and it would make absolute perfect sense to you. So I do 100% highly recommend picking this up if you have the opportunity. I'm sure it's still on shelves in some places, but given how, if not, they're going to be reprints and second, third, fourth printings of this one, just like there was of other ones.
It is,
absolutely.
It is wild to me just how cinematic that book looks. Like you were talking about the writing in it, but just in that page you were showing, just the emotional shifts, like that was, as you were showing those images. If people haven't opened it up and looked at this by the time they're listening to this, like it feels like an indie, something that you would see from like Isola or something like that. Like just widescreen cinematic stuff in there. It's wild how they're able to get that perspective.
Yeah, Steve, the only thing I'm going to comment on, my only area of disagreement was where I teared up.
Interesting.
And it was actually 2 pages after you teared up, was when, and again, something I don't want to spoil, but when Medusa was expressing what the worst part of the curse was.
Yeah.
And that's where the humanity just, overtook me. And I think the thing I really appreciate about the Absolute books in total is, with this, you didn't have to know. They gave you enough to know about Wonder Woman's history with Medusa's, with seeing through Medusa's eyes. A few lines of dialogue. You didn't have to go back and read the previous stories. It was wonderfully self-contained. I loved that the end kind of it ended on like kind of a lighthearted button, like
It did.
almost a chuckle, after this, as Caleb said, this widescreen cinematic epic story, that just
Mhm.
gets distilled down to a relationship between two entities. Um, again, I can't speak highly enough of the line in total. This was a very welcome addition to it. The art was fantastic. It's nice to see another artist in this
Mhm.
world. And just go get it.
Yeah.
Just go
Yeah.
get it.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Like, Hayden Sherman, I love Hayden's art for sure on this. But Mattia Diulis did such a great job with
Yeah.
this, and I think she's done a couple other issues as well, or at least pages and issues. But I just
And
was so impressed
also,
by all this.
I think we should give some shout out um, to her as the colorist as well,
Oh
because
right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know
Yeah.
because of the locales, you go
Mhm.
from bright sunshine to very muted dark colors,
Yeah.
and it's that blend is almost seamless. Um,
Hmm.
given the propulsion of the story, really impressed with that as well.
100%.
Colors were just
And Becca Carey on letters, and Ash Padilla was the assistant editor for this one. Chris Conroy editing for the line. I,
yep,
Thanks, guys.
good comics.
Thanks. Good comics.
All right, so
Appreciate it.
we've had DC Marvel and we've had DC. I think it's time for some Marvel, and that's where we're heading over to Caleb.
Marvel.
Marvel.
Yeah, I got you on that one. Absolutely. So I'm going to take us back just a little bit, right? So I don't know about you guys, but we've spoken about this a little bit. Marvel's in kind of a creative slump right now, at least for me. There's a few books in there that are really good, right? Like they're line wide, there are some, but it's just not there's not a Marvel equivalent to what we're seeing with Absolute and stuff, which is DC as a whole is firing on all cylinders right now. But so I've been going back and reading some stuff that I might have missed just to try and find something to really spark kind of my interest at Marvel again. And fortunately, with the apps and stuff, now you can do that, like through the Marvel app and everything else. You're just a few months behind. So I saw a book that I really wanted to check out and just kind of missed the boat on, but it's The Death of the Silver Surfer, which came out mid to late 2025. I forget if it was October or September, somewhere around there. But this is written by Greg Pak with art by Sumit Kumar, Frank De Armata on colors, and then Joe Sabino on letters. And just as kind of a all enclosed, all encompassed story that plays so much with that character's history, his origins, just the creative force behind him, and his presence in the Marvel universe. That we haven't seen a lot in recent history, but it's just reminding you of just that history and how much of a powerhouse he is. And so the book opens up kind of in modern-ish present day time, but the surfers landed on this planet, and bad things have already obviously happened. There's a gentleman there. He's some type of combatant. You don't really know at the time who he is, and the surfer is just kind of hovering over him. And terrible, terrible, awful things have happened. But what you realize is that it's going and playing with what's happening on Earth as it is. And there are all of these different groups that have now popped up with just these vendettas to stop aliens or to stop these other protective figures. And they've created this kind of prescient modern times, this ice equivalent that goes out to do these kind of, what is in my opinion, really, really constitutionally questionable things, or just and morally bankrupt things, right? They are rounding up people no matter what. So the equivalent to now is real, and of course all of this is in our lives. And again, this is 2025, so I mean, I know these things existed, and I just got to hand it to Greg Pak for telling the story, because he wrote such an amazing um, metaphor for what we're seeing in real time. And Greg Pak is, he's a very good person to carry that kind of message. And so where this goes is in this story, they've created again this unit, and there's this young woman who is working there, and trying, she's trying to take care of her mom. She's got life happening, but her job is, in her opinion, she goes and she stops the bad guy. And these bad guys are these extraterrestrial people. And the book is clever in the sense of, well, how come we don't go up against the Avengers? And they're like, well, they're a different type of thing they operate, and so they're going after just these rogue folks. When their focus does end up coming upon Silver Surfer as he gets in there, and to their argument, they'd be like, yeah, we can't trust the Silver Surfer. He was the herald for Galactus. Like, he freely admits that he's the cause of, and has led to the death of billions of people throughout the universe. Like, that's a valid point in the world, right? In this world where where we see a whole different kind of thing happening. But the story at least focuses on this young woman who is and I have complex feelings around this, and so it's kind of working with how I interpret the story. But the young woman is she thinks she's doing what she's supposed to be doing. She's taking care of her family. She's trying to protect the world, and she gets put into a situation where the reasons that she took this job and the what the job is asking her to do are inherently conflicting, right? And she has that moment where she's like, no, we're not going to go down that road. We're not going to do this. But it takes her a long time throughout this 5-issue stretch. And I won't go into details because it is all collected, and you can go read all 5 issues right now. I sat down and did it in less than an hour. But throughout these 5 issues, again, she things are called into question. She has to, she's put into the orbit of the Fantastic Four, which is this whole big new, place in her life, and she's just kind of amazed by what's happening. And as she starts to make these connections, and she realizes that, hey, we're not where we should be on this. And by the end of the story, of course, a little bit of spoilers through just being around the power cosmic, and being who she is, there's a little bit of a bridge there. And so we get the story of this character who I think is a very now important kind of part of the Silver Surfer canon. So I hope it does carry through. But as the Silver Surfer is battling these people in this story, they've found a way and a mechanism to kind of break through that power cosmic too, which puts them in danger. Silver Surfer is in fact wounded in part of this, and is questionably and arguably could meet his demise if we actually thought that Marvel would ever bring a character to an end and leave it that way, but especially not the Silver Surfer, right? So we know that's not going to happen. But I really thought this was a fun story in a field of Marvel comics where arguably right now it is hit or miss. It's questionable whether or not you're going to come out the other end of it thinking that was the story that you wanted to read at that moment. This was a lot of fun. It locked me in from the very get-go. I think if people haven't read this, they should absolutely go jump on it. It's got a lot of traction from where it could go. And again, just kind of the atmosphere to which we're reading this story, and the, Greg Pak telling these types of really impactful, really global stories with really, really beautiful and, incredible storytelling and art. I'm surprised this wasn't lauded more than what it was. And I heard people say really good things about it, and I didn't hear anybody actively trashing it, but I was very surprised this didn't get, more attention just because of the type of story that it is.
Yeah. Something you might be interested to know on this, Caleb. Internationally, specifically in France and Italy, this was a huge book.
Was it? That does not surprise me, but
book. I think it was Marvel's number 2 seller in France, just under Ultimate Wolverine, in terms of whether it was like a collected edition or something. It was in French, so I really couldn't read it that well. I could only, and I didn't have time for the Google Translate. But from an international perspective, this was a much bigger series, and I don't remember much promotion for this.
I don't either.
It coming out, but it just seemed like minimal. I also think, and I just want to talk about this, the Silver Surfer to me is a weird character by virtue of the character fulfilling his destiny in his first appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, he saved Earth from Galactus. Where do you go from there? where Palm Springs. It's like there's nowhere to really go that's as dramatic. And they've had moments, specifically Infinity Gauntlet, where he played a huge piece. And I certainly like Silver Surfer. Mobius little story parable was fantastic. The initial stories in the 1980s series by Marshall Rogers and Steve Englehart, I thought were a really nice rebirth for the character. It's weird though, because he really is a solo character. He doesn't work on teams. It's the only team he has ever worked on is Defenders, and that's like a non-team anyway.
Yeah, they literally say it in the book.
Yeah, they literally say it's like and so it seems that and of course he has a role in Marvel Cosmic, and Annihilation and what led up to that. But I would imagine it's like you got to have a really good pitch for Marvel to move on a Silver Surfer story at this point. So I think it's a very complex character in where you take it, and this sounds like I wish it was something that was like a little more locked in continuity, because it sounds like an interesting story that you could tell in a slightly different, with some tweaks. Good creative team, and I'm definitely gonna. I had no interest in this before you started talking about it, and I do think I'm going to seek this out at some point.
I highly recommend it. And to your point, Bill, I absolutely agree. Like I'm also going back and reading, and I'm not going to talk about it on the show, but I'm going back and reading, the Hickman event from last year, the
Imperial,
not Eternals, but
Imperial.
whatever it is, Imperial. Yeah. Was reading it, and I mean, space epic, heavy stuff. The Game Master, all of that could have came into play with this story, with the Silver Surfer, and they could use him there too. And you just don't see him such a heavy presence. And I think in a lot of ways is that the character inherently in and of itself is this kind of Deus Ex Machina character. I mean, that's just kind of the walking version of that character, and that's why they were able to tell the one story and complete character arc in the first issue. And that makes him really malleable and almost like the Superman new power for every 5 minutes thing. But I mean, look what they're doing. They can do cool stuff with Superman. They can do cool stuff with him. There's also like a weird parallel between him and Namor too. Obviously the origins and stuff, but at least as far as those kind of character mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I loved Silver Surfer. I started reading Silver Surfer back in the late 80s, early 90s, before it led into the Infinity Gauntlet, and you got to see a lot more of what was going on to get to the Infinity Gauntlet by reading the cosmic books at Marvel, which not everybody was. And so I was like, oh, there's this cool thing that's going to be happening, and then here's Silver Surfer kind of in the middle of things. And then same thing with Infinity War. He was also a major player there too. But you also had the gorgeous art of Ron Lim that really drew me to the character, just because the way he drew it. There's a lot you can do with like a fully mirrored physical form that is pretty fun. If you like those little artistic tricks, you can do all sorts of really cool things with like reflections in his skin. That I think Ron Lim was able to really do. But I loved Allred's, Mike and Laura Allred's Silver Surfer book several years back.
Mm-hmm.
That one, I mean,
it's so funny you called the Allred. I called the Dan Slott book.
Yeah, well, see, I like the Allred one.
No, it's the same.
It's the same thing, but I like the fact that I think that Allred probably brought more to that book than Dan Slott did. Not to say that Dan Slott's writing wasn't great.
If you just go into interviews with Dan Slott,
I'm sure they worked very closely together to form what Allred was able to put on that page.
It's the closest Silver Surfer as Doctor Who could work.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, you got a companion on board, literally on board with you. Seeing all sorts of really crazy things in the universe. Yeah.
I was going to say the Tradmore Silver Surfer was really good too. I don't know if y'all read that one
but
yeah.
The last time I read a story where the character was involved was Defenders. That really out there Defenders. He wasn't in Defenders.
Yeah, that where it was like it was a 4-part issue, right?
He's in the one before it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That I think that's the last time I really read the character.
Yeah. Which is too bad because I mean, again, it's a classic character, but it really does depend on the creative team, I think, to bring that enjoyment. So,
all right. Well, Steve, you kind of took the mic, so why don't you just keep it? Tell us about another book you read.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
I was thinking I had some more time, but I guess
no, it's in the slot, baby. That's what we wrote out.
So the book, and I don't have images for this one because there really aren't that many online that are workable preview images. So I'll do this without the slideshow. So. But the book that I'm going to be talking about is part of the AWA Futurific line of books. They've been doing graphic novellas for the past year that tend to pick a subject looking forward into the future, and especially looking very hopefully into the future. So, there have been a few books where they've dealt with climate change very directly, flooding and the erosion of coastal towns, and the possibility of having floating cities and what that could mean for people in these communities that are destroyed economically, socially by climate change. You also have other books that they've told about the future of robotics and AI and how it can actually work with humanity as opposed to being the horrible downfall of humanity that we seem to be seeing or living through right now. But one of the interesting stories that they did decide to tell was one that was closely aligned with Afrofuturism, which is, usually it's sci-fi, but doesn't always have to be sci-fi. It can just be looking at, nature and philosophy from an Afrocentric point of view, but one that's also, international in its scope. And in this one, it's Black Moon Ritual. There we go. Written by the writer, and I'm going to get her name wrong, but Itasha Elwomack, and drawn by Aletha Martinez. And I think they team up very well here. Itasha Womack's prose style is kind of poetic. Not necessarily like poetic, like, oh my gosh, it's so flowing and beautiful, but it's very image centric. And there's a lot of interesting concepts that she tries to get across through the words on the page. And I think Aletha Martinez really helps to bring that vision along, because there's a lot of interesting imagery in this that isn't necessarily instantly understandable if you just read the words on the page. Aletha really brings in, and this is where the artist does a lot of of work teaming with the writer to kind of bring out the vision very well. Because I don't think that Itasha Womack, I don't recognize her work in comics. I don't think she's done a lot of comic writing prior to this. But I think she does have a future in it. So I'm excited to see what else she comes up with. But the story in this one focuses on a resident of an island nation of people who basically have found a perfect way to balance, their activity, their leisure, their work, their purpose, in different houses. It's very interesting. It's very informed by like ballroom culture. It's informed by, a lot of different Caribbean cultures as well. But the main character, and I'm trying to think if I could get his name here. Basically, he is a surfer and is looking for his place in this island. He really wants to join a particular house because he thinks that, with his surfing ability, he can help with their, kinetic wave energy technology, and he can collect energy for the community with his amazing surfing. And then his friends all have different goals as well. And he also has one friend, a really interesting character that they describe as sort of a digital resident, a digital citizen. This is a person who lives somewhere else on the planet, but projects their self as a hologram and lives on the island as this hologram. And their relationship is really interesting. Rainey is this character. She keeps telling him, you know, you need to find something for yourself. You can't just throw yourself at these different houses or be disappointed if you're not made part of this group or that group or the other group. There's something about you that's innate, that's really important, that's really powerful. You need to find a way to bring that out. And he kind of blows her off at first and is really angry at this, but then when he isn't picked for any of the houses and he just finds himself kind of, you know, in a funk, he ends up running into a gentleman who comes to the island on a boat, an old-fashioned sailboat. It's got old tech on it, and the guy's kind of an asshole. And you know, he, with the help of Rainey, at first kind of goes and encounters this person and is like, I don't really know, like, I don't know why you are the way you are. But in helping him and getting this boat seaworthy again, he finds a new purpose, and he goes out on the ocean and he encounters a lot more. And this is where it gets very psychedelic. There's a lot of like Parliament Funkadelic mothership kind of language that's happening here, including art, that is brought out in this. And just this idea that there's so much more in the past, in the present, and the future that can define who you are in your being. And he finds a new purpose. He finds a new place to be, and encounters the real Rainey, the real physical person of Rainey, and his purpose at the same time. And it's really interesting. There's a lot of like love for old analog tech. There's LPs that pop up here. There's old radio that pops up here. Just, you know, this really interesting way of looking at the future by looking at the past and seeing what is important from the past, what can still maintain, you know, a direction into the future that allows you to kind of anchor yourself, but at the same time, allow your spirit to fly free. Very, like I said, extremely poetic, very poetically written. And the art is gorgeous, but there's a lot of back matter here that kind of explains a lot more of the concepts that go beyond the page. And I love when back matter does this, where it's like, here's some essays that you might want to read that help you understand this. But AWA has been putting out some really interesting stuff over the past year. Not for everybody. We're not talking superhero comics. They're kind of getting away from the crime comics a lot. There are a couple, you know, titles that they do still have published that are more along those lines of what we've come to expect from AWA. But their futurist line of books has been really fantastic and really thought-provoking. So not for everybody, but I do recommend it. Black Moon Ritual. So, yeah.
That also sounds like a band name from like 2012.
It could be. It absolutely could be. It
Black
could
Moon
be
Ritual.
like, it could actually be from you know, some lyrics from like an old P-Funk album. Like, I mean, honestly, there's so much here. Like, if you know anything about ballroom culture, if you know anything about you know, like the funk philosophical funk movement of like the 60s and 70s, this has a lot in there. And it's really cool kind of seeing these concepts being pulled out and really presented this way in sort of a future, like a far future context. So it's neat.
I'm gonna go read this and listen to my Bootsy Collins records. Is what's gonna happen.
Absolutely, 100%. I think it would go very well, actually. And I do have to say, they did provide a Spotify playlist of
nice.
things that you should be able to listen to when reading this book. And so there's some of here. So Alice Coltrane, Oceanic Boulevard.
Yep.
Bob Marley and the Wailers, Could You Be Loved, is on this list. And Jimmy Cliff's You Can Get It If You Really Want. Like, a lot of this stuff is it's just fun, and you can actually hear the lyrics through the page.
I love
and
that.
It's cool. So check it out.
All right. Well, I think we have another independent-minded book, and let's throw it over to Caleb.
Yeah, absolutely. So in my reading this week, I stumbled on, it's not really an anthology, but it's like a short story collection of these really cool sci-fi alternate universe that came out of the mind of Simon Roy, with a little help from Sergei Nazaroff and Drew Shields. Now, Simon Roy, I don't know if I even remembered this at the time, but I was going back to do my research. I'd forgotten that he was the artist on the Prophet series when Brandon Graham tried to bring that back around in life, which is kind of a cool, like that's kind of a cool background to it. But since then, he's gone on to do other things, and his art has evolved. And I'll talk about the short stories here in a little bit. You'll understand how like the space and the setting works with this, but he's still very much in that kind of same Brandon Graham wheelhouse, but he's gone more Mobius with his stuff. And so it's, it jumps over there into that school. Really cool stuff. So he put together, this kind of collection of short stories. Starts off very meta. It's just him in his wasteland bunker that he has. And he's like, oh, hey, how are you? Thanks for reading my comics. These are just some short stories that, I dreamed up while I was working on other stuff. Here's where I'm working. Like he shows this like post-apocalyptic desk with like his drawings and paintings and stuff for one of his other books. And, there's the prophets referenced in here too. So it's very real to life. Like what if this place happened and in the apocalypse that he dreams of while he's talking to you in real time about his short stories and what he was thinking about while he's writing these. So very cool meta thing. But yeah, he goes and he explains in each of these short stories that he takes you to. I think I believe there's 7, maybe 8 total, including some back matter. But the general large theme and concept is mostly it is post-apocalyptic, but it's post-apocalyptic in what if mankind and Earth had have expanded and shot out into the universe and colonized these other planets and then got cut off, and through billions of years of evolution, what do people and machines look like on these other places, and how do machines evolve on Earth? So there's these big kind of concepts that he boils down into these 8 or 9 page comics that you get a really big sense of the worlds that they're playing in, but also just the short snippets of a day in these creatures or machines or characters' lives, and they feel real. They feel fully fleshed out, even though you get a very short glimpse into their world and personality trait, which is not easy to do. Like I've read this and kind of just immediately fell in love with it. But by way of example, to talk about some of these, my favorite short story in this book is a short story called The Oxpecker and the Elephant. And he bases this off of real life animals and stuff, but in this world that somehow eventually humanity had come on to, and who knows what happens, but a lot of them have reverted back to just being cavemen. So so it shows you these characters or these humans crash landing when they were expanding, and then you do a millennialistic jump. And on this planet, you've got these elephants, but these are these giant, huge, like Tolkien-esque size monolithic beings with a collection of bones, almost like those crabs that decorate their shells. They build these exoskeletons and stuff on their back that they kind of heft around with, and they're sentient. The narrator tells the story from their voice, and they almost view these characters, these humans, as just these lost, wayward children. And they, over the course of time, develop a parasitic relationship, or maybe parasitic's not the right word, but it becomes that. But the humans are basically throughout history now they've set up colonies. They come and they help get rid of mites on the thing's back, and there's this mutual beneficial relationship that spans generations. But it becomes a problem because they become tribalistic on each different elephant. So when, like the elephant's doing its thing, it wants to go mate. Like the humans that have built up these fiefdoms on their back just go to war and slaughter each other. And they're just like, what's happening? Like, we can't perpetuate our species with you guys just on our back acting like weird lice and just fucking things up. Mood killer. Like, that we don't want genocide to happen every time we want to go set the mood. And so what these creatures do, they just kind of, they've just decided that humanity ran its course, that this was not worth saving. So these creatures, which have developed these giant, I don't know what they're made out of, but these things on their back, they just cut them loose and let them fall off in the ocean, and they're just done. They just walk away. They're just like, this can't, you guys are not, it's not going to happen. But so what I love about this, right? It's got comedic elements, but just the broad scope of what this is in a short story, right? It's doing genre jumps. There's a little bit of Dune kind of stuff in here, a little bit of Mobius stuff in here, but it both spans like space and time, right? Because it's like, so what if humans had gone out and colonized this? So who knows where this is at in the universe and when it is, and how it could be, and just how those different functions in the evolutionary process would happen with that. To me, it's brilliant. It's brilliant sci-fi storytelling. I absolutely just was drawn into this. Would love to read a whole another volume of this, and really want to seek out more of his work if this is the kind of storytelling we're getting. And shame on me for not realizing this existed in the Brandon Graham universe, because it's I don't read a lot of Brandon Graham stuff. I like this better than Brandon Graham. No, don't get up Brandon Graham, but yeah, this was really good shit. Like, I turn on Metal, sit down and read this, have a good afternoon. It's good stuff.
I mean, this is right up my alley. Like, I Brandon Graham stuff, but I also I love Mobius. So when you have these sort of very Euro style weird
kind of
science, it's like weird sci-fi, weird fantasy, all kind of blended together with just these strange visions of other worlds. I love that kind of stuff, because you could do the writer can do all sorts of craziness with it, the artist can do all sorts of craziness with it, and interpreting that, and it's just, they're fun. This was reminding me of 8 House that came out from Image Comics about 10 years ago, which was also Brandon Graham verse adjacent. I think he wrote a couple of the stories in there.
And I didn't send this to you guys too, but I'll show them up on my iPad. Like, you're getting more than just story. Like, he's got so much ephemera in this. There's like write-ups and different things about all the different mech units that exist on the different worlds before they go into story. Like, he's fleshed out with each of these different stories. He's fleshed out so much that with like on one story, it's about basically what happens if the Catholic Church had AI machines that were made for steam engines.
Sure. Like you do.
So good. The caretaker's also in that story. The caretaker is just like enjoying the fact that he's the only man there, and all these nuns love him. It's just hilarious. It's so funny, but so expansive. So please go check this out. I encourage it.
Who's the publisher on that?
Let me go back and check, because I just exited out of it. I am so sorry. This is a great radio.
Great radio.
This is the problem with digital, because I don't know how to just jump back to the beginning.
Depending on the reader,
it is. No, it's Image Comics. Yeah, Image Comics.
Okay, cool.
There you go.
Nice.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. I have to look up. I can ask my friend, but just mentioning Brandon Graham, something I didn't tell you guys was that the restaurant, one of the restaurants I went to when I was in Seattle last October, had the outside had graffiti from when Graham was tagging stuff when he was a teenager.
Oh wow!
On the side of the building,
still there, which is fantastic.
It's right by Fantagraphics too, which is kind of cool. Oh. Yeah.
Might be why it's still there.
But I'm like a wimp when it comes to Brandon Graham and that kind of sensitivity. Like the work I'm most familiar with is Prophet. And like everything I've read, I've enjoyed, and it sounds like this style is something I could dig, because I'm just thinking like how clever that conceit is of of that parasitic relationship, society building on top of that, which probably isn't that different from nature.
But it's evolving at the same time. Like, you got to remember, like, these people had spacefaring technology and then crashed. Like, so it's they're both evolving as a culture while they're devolving as like, it's really fucking cool. Like,
cool. Yeah, I'm interested.
And for like, I don't know if you read, you were talking about, just in the Brandon Graham stuff, but
Yeah.
just that art style too. I don't know if you read Rain Like Hammers, or saw any of the work from it, but it's interesting seeing how both of these two artists who are so similar in style and go so far back have gone stylistically, but still have that DNA. Like I just
Oh
process
yeah,
clean. I'm fascinated by that.
All right,
yeah.
cool.
Rain Like Hammers. That there was some. There's some. Yeah, the connection in the art. It's really
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Okay. So I think we're gonna end up with me for the
Yep.
for the button here. And in the last few episodes, we've talked about new Vertigo. We've talked about End of Life. We've talked about Bleeding Hearts. So what the hell? Let's make it a hat trick. I want to talk about sorry, the Peril of the Brutal Dark, an Ezra Kane mystery. And this is written by Chris Condon with art by Jacob Phillips. And if you could, surmise from the image you have here or here, it's very much noir story, but there's some twists to it. So, what is the world of the Peril of Brutal Dark? The story starts out in July 1913 in an archaeological expedition in Greece, where uh, a group of archaeologists finds the anvil of Hephaestus. And it's interesting because this is the second story tonight that touches on Greek mythology. And almost immediately after in the narrative that discovery, we flash forward to 1941. World is at war. And where are we but New York City? And there is a hard boiled detective named Ezra Kane. But Ezra has some distinctive qualities. He didn't graduate from Columbia, but he was enrolled there, learning about archaeology, and left to become a fighter pilot in the First World War. Comes back to New York, becomes a cop, and through a series of events that we haven't really been revealed to us yet, ends up as a private eye. And in his life, in the current day, he encounters some really scuzz types. And we are greeted in the very beginning of people trying to off him, but he's a bit too smart for that, and he offs them in this wonderful, Damon Runyons esque dialogue that just keeps going and going. Yeah, so we have that story there. I'm sorry I didn't know that there was a preview, but yeah, that's how Ezra Kane answers the door with rat a tat tat. Okay. And in this story, he's trying to recover a briefcase. It's recovered, and he ends up delivering it and kind of hardballing the person he delivers it to. So that part of the story is done, or is it? He's walking home and he sees an old beat cop he knows, and the old beat cop is telling him about his neighbors, the Myers, who were recently from Germany. Given the time frame, most likely they're Jewish, given the discussion points here. And the husband of the Jewish couple has gone missing. Though he doesn't like to take things pro bono, he decides to help out his friend, especially if he ever needs a favor from the cops. And he goes to a natural history museum. I don't think they actually give it a name to avoid getting sued. But he meets the curator there, who's a kind of quirky guy, and tells him about the anvil of Hephaestus. And you see there the two gentlemen in discussion there. And it turns out that the anvil of Hephaestus, after the discovery, with the way that Europe is working and the Italians and the Germans coming into Greece in 1940, that the anvil of Hephaestus is missing. And this is the kind of artifact that if Hitler or Mussolini figure out its actual power, that it might lead to world domination. So We get that information, and as Ezra comes home, he's greeted by the by Rachel Meyer, the wife of the gentleman who's gone missing, and she warns him about the brutal dark. So, from an artistic style, and as you can see here, though it's a color story, it really felt like I was watching a film on TCM.
Yep.
You know, with the very heavy darks and what could be a really cliched story with, you know, of just another hard-boiled detective. When you throw in the elements of, you know, of a cult, the socio-political atmosphere that this is happening, just as World War II is really moving. It's, you know, it's right before Pearl Harbor, but you know, of course, the U.S. was involved in various capacities already. At this point, read your history, folks. And you know, I got to tell you, like it for me, they're 3 for 3 on these new books. You know, I was really enjoying this, and the notion of a Sam Spade Indiana Jones hybrid is so cool. You know, and that's, you know, it, you know, that's the elevator pitch, but I do think that this works on various levels because it's Vertigo. You know, let's face it, it's going to work on different levels, and I especially like, you know, in some of the depictions of Ezra Kane, like he could be a matinee idol. You know, it wasn't like this grizzled face that you saw. It was a, you know, almost like a, you know, a George Saunders, very good looking gentleman.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stories to tell there. And I know that when Chris Condon has been interviewed, he says he has at least 3 Ezra Kane mysteries in him. And I hope we get to all 3.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's
yeah. It was interesting because I think out of all the new Vertigo books, this has the longest official title.
Yeah.
The Peril of it's hold on, let me I have to read this out. The Peril of the Brutal Dark and Ezra Kane Mystery. That's all.
Number 1.
That's the entire number 1. That's the entire title. But it really kind of makes you feel like you've stepped into this world, into something that's already had, you know, other stories going. Ezra Kane's been involved in some other kind of you know, possible theft of a mystical artifact, or, you know, maybe a cult kidnapping mystery or something like that. And then this kind of, well, it's another one. It's, you know, you've got your Ark of the Covenant, you know, parallel there with the Anvil of Hephaestus. You've got potentially the you know, the cult of the, or the was it the Brotherhood of the, or the Heliotropic Brotherhood of Ra, from Mike Mignola's Hellboy universe, you know, possibly is involved in something like this, because there's the cult of Hephaestus that supposedly you know, is possibly involved. The Brutal Dark themselves, maybe, and of course Nazis, because Nazis,
and he's a fighter pilot.
Yeah, and he's a previous fighter pilot. Yes.
So you know, we immediately go to Athena Voltaire.
Yeah, well,
exactly,
you know,
exactly. Like Steve Bryant. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is Steve Bryant too. Like I could see a lot of that involved in this. So you've got Mignola, you've got Bryant, you've
Ezra
got
Dark, Athena Voltaire mystery.
Yeah,
and then we're, you know, we have to get a, if we're going to do that, we've got to get a Rocketeer crossover too, because I could feel I could see that in the same universe. Honestly, like it would be a short bridge to walk across.
Yeah, exactly. I think that this kind of hits a really cool niche of adventure noir, you know, that it's exciting to read, and I'm glad that Vertigo is taking their chance on this type of story.
And I do have to say, after the solicitations, this was the Vertigo title I was the least interested in, and probably the one I enjoyed the most.
Yeah,
it was, which is really cool.
It was really good, and so he studied his dad's playbook, like.
Yeah,
there's so much, like he's got to just be like, hey, thanks, Dad. Like I appreciate, thank you for all the money that you just like helped me get, because yeah, he's such a good talent. I mean, just very much a legacy talent. It's so cool to see that.
Yeah, definitely exciting. I'm I'm so happy with the crop of Vertigo books this time around.
Mhm.
Not to say that the old ones or previous relaunches or soft relaunches that they've had recently haven't been all that great, but I I think they hit gold with the creative teams this time around
Mhm.
with the books that they're running. And part of me was kind of thinking that they were being a little cynical by having Tinian's Nice House on the Lake as sort of like the ongoing, like it's going to flow right into the Vertigo thing, so
Yeah.
at least they'll have something with the Vertigo indicia that'll sell, because people are already buying it, so they'll buy. Look, Vertigo's doing well. I don't think they need to worry about it.
Yeah, but I also thought that was kind of like a nod to Sandman and Shade the Changing Man.
Like, here we're just bringing it in,
that,
and now it's part of our.
Prior to a certain issue, had the DC trade on it, and then we're Vertigo. Right. I thought that was almost like kind of a tip of the hat to that.
It's like, let's bring it in, so at least you've got one title that people are recognized and people are familiar with, and then maybe they'll give the other ones a chance. But I don't think they need to worry at all, because I mean, everybody I've talked to who's read either Bleeding Hearts or End of Life, and now of course talking to you guys about this one, like I think they're doing okay. I think
if it wasn't a nod to it and they hear this podcast, they should definitely steal that, and that's their reasoning. Someone is like, yeah, actually Bill's explanation is better than that's just when we decided to do it.
We wanted alignment with the past.
Yes, that's cool. That's pretty
all
fun.
Right.
But good comics this time around.
Oh my god, this is like the most economical we've been.
Yeah,
maybe we should have like a hard cutoff in the future. This is a really balanced, focused conversation. Cool.
Well, and also I think this month, I'd say March was a great month for comics.
Yes,
and not just March, but I think the past, so far for 2026, we've had nothing but a lot of
I have read, I would say 11 great comics like that I would characterize as great single issues.
Oh yeah.
And I can't remember a time since 1986 where I could say that in such a short period of time, but there've been some really good comics this year.
Well, and it's not just being selective in what we're reading either, because I take more chances on stuff now, especially with apps, and I'm still reading a lot of really quality stuff. Right. Yeah. So it's not just, I know I'm going to like this creator and this writer. I'm only going to read their stuff. And so therefore I'm reading a bunch of stuff that was the Surfer book is a great example of that. And it was, so yeah, they're really, really great comics coming out right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this year, when we look back at the end of this year, if it continues at the pace that it's been, I think we're going to have some tough times finding our favorite books of the year.
Yeah.
So, Steve, I need you to, by the way, be doing us a favor and keeping a list of all the things we say. So, because I don't do a good enough job at that. So, can you please tell me what books I'm going to pick at the end of the year off my spreadsheet?
Okay. Well, I think I love that Steve has instituted the videos.
Yeah.
The short reels, because that's that's our scrapbook.
Yeah.
We definitely can look at that.
Which ones did we talk about? Okay.
What did I talk about? What did I talk about in January?
You talking about that book? Okay, good.
How was I wearing that year?
Okay. It's almost time for me to do a full t-shirt refresh. Get some new shirts up in here. So
yeah, I'm getting some. I've got to get rid of some old shirts and then cut sleeves out of old shirts and make them my new workout shirts.
Yep. And I see that Caleb, you're wearing a new shirt too.
I am. I'm going to talk about it here in a minute.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, as we move on toward the end of our shows, the first stop in our penultimate section of the show is where we talk about our Geek Gets, things that we picked up in the last 14 to 17 days that are, somewhat genre oriented. Steve, did you get anything along the lines to?
He's over there unwrapping something like a kid in a candy store.
I am unwrapping some stuff. And in fact, one of them I'm gonna do an open. Like we're gonna do an
unboxing
thing. An unboxing or an unwrapping. So one of the things that I did get, and you know, if you remember these sort of miniatures that McDonald's was doing, I got an actual sort of, let's see if I can put it up there. It is a McNuggets meal.
I love it.
On a tray. On a tray. This is not a, it's not a robot one, but it's one that they had that they were trying to get rid of. But I thank Bill for telling me about this.
Oh, cool! Because
Wendy's has a new promotion. Again with DC, they've actually partnered with DC many times before. We had like the little multi-pack figures, which were really cool. Now they have these things, which are basically DC Riders, is what they're calling, or DC Rides, where you have your main characters. You've got your Batman, Green Lantern, Superman, Wonder Woman, you know, and Supergirl that are riding little vehicles. And I think the Green Lantern has an armor thing that you can take on and off. But there are also rare variants where it's the villain version of all these characters, color swapped and all that. So let's see what I got. Well, I didn't get the villain, but I did get good old
Flash.
Yay! He's very cute. It's a very square head, and he comes with the treadmill. So I think this is pretty cool. So you can, you know, you can pose him and do all sorts of stuff on there.
All right, so I mean, but is it Wally or Barry?
Oh gosh, well with the treadmill, wasn't it always? It was always Barry. I can't remember. I know Wally did the treadmill.
Wally is the treadmill. Yeah.
So it could be either one of them.
He's the treadmill in his first appearance as Flash.
That's true.
In Crisis 12. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So Wally or Barry, you can decide which one in your head this one is. But yeah, Bill, you should definitely check these out.
Oh yeah, no, I just haven't had a chance to get out there yet.
Yeah,
I think we only saw that article like on Thursday. So
yeah, well, and by the time we saw the article, it said, "Oh, it's also active."
Yeah,
so this is what I picked up. I think
because I went nuts on the figures, the little.
Oh yeah, figures. You had more figures than anybody that I knew. So.
Cool. Oh god, I'm never gonna lose weight. All right, are we going over to Caleb?
All right, it's my turn?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so I got a couple things, but first things first, I need to right a wrong, an egregious error on my part. Last time we recorded these, I sinfully left out Cubist Flamingo for my gift. You know, I've got Cubist Flamingo, my sidekick, all the time. I pulled a bill when I was grocery shopping earlier today and found this. It's the Hot Wheels Superman.
I want that.
Do you not have this, Bill?
No, I can't.
I will go back and see if I can find one. If I can find it to you, I'll send it to you.
Okay, if you can't, well, or you know, Heroes. Look for that, and also look for. You remember when we had the Superman and Batman books that were in the supermarkets?
Yeah.
There's a Justice League that I can't find.
Okay,
that's out now. Yeah. So
okay, I don't.
Be on the lookout for that.
They have those at Five Below every once in a while. I don't know about the Kroger I go because that's where I got this at Kroger. I got this at my grocery store, but I'll keep an eye out for them and see if I can find them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
But my geekiest get of all of my geek gets involves the shirt that Steve was just talking about. But it's this. It is a concert poster that is a concert poster for Little Rock for Jason Isbell. And I think that's really cool. I don't see that a lot where the artists, at least in some of the bands that I go to, the artists still make, you know, individual concert posters that they can sell for that venue. And I thought that was cool. But I got to go see Jason Isbell earlier this week. He did an all acoustic set at an amazing venue here that I've been to see a couple of plays at before. But this particular theater is, if you need to hear an acoustic concert or a choir or something like that, it is an amazing spot in Little Rock, and it's wonderful. But yeah, for me, you know, I'm a huge fan of Jason Isbell. I've said on this before. For me, he's he's one of the best songwriters working today, just in his lyricism and the way that he explains things, and lays out the scenery and tells his stories. As far as folky type music, you know, he's very much a student of John Prine. In the way that he does things. So, you know, in his work with Drive By Truckers, Southern Rock, really, really fun stuff. But he sang a lot of his hits. He actually sang some stuff. One of my favorite Drive By Truckers song, which is Outfit. And all in all, it was a great night to see somebody who, for me, is a very important songwriter and storyteller in today's world. One of my favorite artists. I couldn't buy an album because I already own all of his albums. So there wasn't anything for me to get. So I got a hat, a shirt, and a concert poster for Little Rock on this date, and I'm going to get framed and put up on my record player and just kind of nerd out a little bit about it. So it was super fun.
Cool.
So we do actually have a comment. Let me see if I can pull it up.
People knew we were doing this. Okay, cool.
Well, the only person I know who was doing it was who knew we were doing it was my husband. So he says, "I'm going to need for some healthier chain to start carrying toys, so the hubs might eat something healthier."
That would be nice. That would be
it
nice.
would be nice, but I doubt that, like, places like
Tropical Smoothie,
PDQ, or Tropical Smoothie Cafe are going to have these toys. They sadly do not.
I mean, you need Panera to get a franchise, and just give me a salad with the walnut.
To be fair, there are some instances where you can buy the toys without buying the food.
Absolutely.
Oh, true.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is something that's really good. They haven't figured out how to do it in the apps yet. And I am a big app user because of the points and, like, discounts and all that.
So you can get more free food you shouldn't be eating.
It's all about the free stuff. Well, because then I can also get free Happy Meals, which come with the toys. So, and that's also how I restock the back of my car with bottled water.
All right.
You just get the bottled water with the Happy Meals, and I just throw it in the back. So now I've got probably a 12-pack's worth of bottled water back there.
This is gonna how I'm. So who Steve is as a person.
I have 3 sequences of Geek Gets. I'll get through them really quick. I know Caleb saw my post this morning on the 11 o'clock comic Slack. So my first Geek Get is actually from May 1977. This is a very well-loved copy, my original copy of the Batman limited edition collection, which reprinted 4 key stories involving the saga of Ra's al Ghul. Apart from one, they're all drawn by Neil Adams, all written by Denny O'Neil. We have Talia, we have Ra's al Ghul, we have the League of Assassins, we have the Lazarus Pit. It's impossible to think of Batman without these concepts. So these are very important stories. In my travels, some point 27 years ago, this went missing. Moved a bookcase today, and look what was behind it. So rediscovered after 27 years.
That's really good shape too to be behind a.
Oh no, it's like it was like literally just like that, like pressed against the wall. It was literally like that, even before Rob moved in with me. I mean, that's how long this has been there.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, and I could have sworn, that we would have seen it when we took out the carpeting for Pergo, for the Pergo flooring, but apparently not. It was there. So, and that's why, you can see it's like well loved. There's some nicks and bends. So I'm just happy to get this. So Geek It from May 1977. Like Caleb, I saw some shows. I saw Corey Glover and Vernon Reed in a stripped down show, Half a Living Color, at Randy's Man Cave, my favorite local shop. Before, this is a wonderful story. Before the show, they were playing the group that was playing on Sunday, the Len Price 3. Now, I'd heard of them, but I never heard them. And it basically was like as if the Jam never really progressed their sound from the first 2 albums, but I don't mean that in a bad way. And I just, before the night was over, I had a ticket for Sunday. So it was a good show. Me being me, I grabbed some singles that have been released from the last few years, and this is their most recent album, the Len Price 3, Misty Medway Magic. So good stuff. But the big Geek Get, y'all know me and my Migos. I love my Migos. There's some Migos back here. This is the reissued Spider-Man set. They had an additional set that's on sale only at the Disney Springs Marvel shops. and on their website. So, yeah, he has to see this. So, look at this, babies. Oh, so this is the Avengers gift set with 4 figures that are reproduced from the 70s figures: Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and Hulk. And I didn't get the Fantastic Four set because my original 4 figures they're still in pretty good shape. So, that was just like spending money to spend money. But I haven't had Iron Man or Thor figures since I was a little kid. So,
yeah.
So that's there. And they're going to be, I'm going to have to move Superman until I really get the storage space in order. This is going to be like right behind my head for at least the next few weeks. So,
nice.
Yep. Happy Bill.
Yep.
Happy Bill. Happy Clappy Bill.
Happy Clappy. Very happy. I was very happy Clappy when the order went through because the Spider-Man set was it was like take your Ticketmaster anxiety and multiply it by 50. It was horrible. It was in my cart 3 times and then left, that kind of shit. But this one was pretty smooth. And I think the numbers were bigger than the Fantastic Four set. So, a lot of people got shut out. Even though you can go to Disney Springs, there seemed to be a lot available. They just haven't restocked the online store with it.
Right.
But it's just to get these figures, the original Migos in the short boxes like this, it would probably run you about $8,000.
Jesus.
At this point. So $90 is low, easier to stomach.
Tax.
Yeah, that sounds better.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've hit the last stop on our journey tonight. And when we wrap an episode of the Comic Book Bears, we do so with a segment we call the Woofs of the Week. In the bear community, if you find a fellow attractive, you woof at him. And we do something very similar where we woof at something which may be comic book or comic book related. It's often a TV program or a film or possibly a charitable initiative. Anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener or viewer, may be interested in sampling. I'll start as I always do with Steve. Steve, what is your woof of the week?
So, of course, my woof of the week, it has to be a TV show because I watch a lot of TV. But this one is interesting because I could probably describe it best as Harry Potter meets Deadly Class, but sort of for middle grades. And that is, it's also based on a book series, but that's the BBC series called Crookhaven, which is basically about a young man who's a pickpocket who gets brought to this school for crooks who learn to use their relatively, criminal activities for the better good, for the greater good of society and stuff. It's very much Harry Potter-esque. But if you are trying to avoid Harry Potter, this is a wonderful alternative because the kids are A, older, and B, it's a lot more fun and wacky, and there's no risk of basically supporting a turf. So so this is what I would recommend. Crookhaven. It's running on BBC now. I think they just had episode number 4 came out. It's a 10-episode series. So it's fantastic. So if you have access to, I believe, BritBox, or you have access to BBC, definitely check out Crookhaven.
Okay. Over to Caleb. Caleb, what is your woof of the week?
All right, so my woof of the week also goes out to a television show, and it's one that I'm sorry I didn't send a graphic, but it's a Netflix original that I watched this week that again came out at the end of last year or so, and unfortunately, before anybody gets super invested in it, I don't think got picked up for a second season. So kind of womp 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 on that. But it was a fantastic show, which makes it all the more bittersweet, and it pisses me off that it didn't get picked up and that people like me just now watched it. But the show is called The Abandons, and it's a Netflix original. It is created by Kurt Sutter, who is the creator and longtime writer of Sons of Anarchy, and worked on The Sopranos and stuff as well. And so long history with that. This story takes place at it's the frontier era Old West, right? This isn't it is cowboys and stuff like that, but it's not old Texas town. They're in the Midwest, and it really is about these two women who are both central figureheads. One of them, is the widow of a big land baron. The other one is she's just an Irish immigrant who's trying to do her best. And they've got these kind of families and how they clash. It is amazing. It is amazing old school Western. Just Ryan Hurst is in this because Ryan Hurst is going to be in everything Kurt Sutter touches. And he basically plays like the Pinkerton version of the era. He was the guy that got sent in to do wet work for folks who didn't want to give up their land, in Mexico and stuff. It's really, really good, fun drama. But just as a kid who loves westerns, man, super, super stoked. And it does, if you want to go ahead and watch it, it does wrap up most of season 1 stuff. They absolutely thought they were going to get a second season though, because it is open ended. And there's some answers you're not going to ever get. So just know that before you invest a season of it. But I still think it's well worth the watch.
Cool. Yeah, I saw the previews for it. It looked really interesting. But yeah, it's so hard when something that you want to watch is not going to be able to continue, and you're like,
yeah.
Should I get invested?
Cool. There's some hard moments in this too. Like he didn't pull the punches about how just brutal this era was. Like. Yeah, there's a little there's some it was like this is oof.
Okay. All right, for my woof of the week, I know a lot of people participated in this, at least I hope a lot of people that are listening or watching to this participated in this past weekend. Steve, if you can just go to the graphic. I am talking about the No Kings rallies and marches that took place yesterday, the 28th of March, and you'll see there's the No Kings logo. I attended the parade and march in Highland Park, New Jersey, with friends of the show, Rob and Kathy Stager. There's Rob with his really cool No Kings But Kirby sign. And met a lot of great people. I wish there was more documentation about the people who spoke, because the third speaker yesterday was fantastic. Some dude named Todd. I'm just thank you, dude named Todd. No, but I don't know if he was involved with the union groups at Rutgers University or not, but or the local chapter of Indivisible, but I'd vote for him for anything. He inspired us so much. But again, this is to protest the current administration and to ensure that democracy remains in the United States. I just wanted to show this really cool picture that just came my way from that. What has basically become ground zero for this has been Minneapolis, and they had a lot of performers there. I think the estimate is now up to 220,000 people went to the Commons in Minneapolis, and this is Joan Baez, Maggie Rogers, Tom Morello, and Bruce Springsteen. You have 4 generations of musicians here performing, and we all have to speak out in some way. Because this is, unlike comic books, we can't fix the timeline. We can just fix things that are happening right now to the best that we can. And the thing that really warmed me is, and don't think New Jersey doesn't have MAGA. We do. They're just really offensive. They're really bad. It's these people from the shore who have money, but not as much money as they think they do. It's a weird dynamic. They've always been there. They just never had a name before. But in standing on Main Street in Highland Park, and the number of people that were honking in support of our signs, I would say we're about 200 to 1. We had some old, gross-looking lady giving me the finger, and oh honey, you got bigger problems. Start looking at the woman in the mirror, honey. Just did. this wasn't it. What you were seeing around you here, the political opposition wasn't it.
Yeah.
But it was really, really empowering to feel that. And knock wood, we only have to do this 1 or 2 more times.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It'll be the biggest party ever when it happens. Let's face it. There will be more alcohol sales in one day than ever. Ever.
Including the day that they rescinded the prohibition amendment.
Oh, it's going to leave it in the dust. It's going to leave that in the dust. Oh. And also, I just wanted to mention with Randy's Man Cave participated in the No Kings in Heightstown, and they've gotten a lot of negative comments on their Yelp and Facebook page. So if just because I have such an affection for that place, if I was counterbalancing that as best I could. And it's all like fucking bots or really weird Jersey MAGA. So it angered me because Randy's such a good guy, and the post itself was kind of innocuous, So I don't know if you guys have any establishment that you frequent that has garnered that kind of attention.
Yeah, there's actually, I'm not going to get into it because of timing, but there's a restaurant in Little Rock called the Croissanterie that got a target put on it by the governor of our state because they said she kicked her out, and it's 1000% just propaganda.
Yeah,
just the way it's being spun. It is ridiculous and frustrating. So if you're in Little Rock and want amazing pastries and bakeries, look up the Croissanterie in Little Rock. It's phenomenal. Will be well worth your time. Luckily, the lines have been out the door for 2 weeks since all this happened. You can go Google this. This was national news, right? Like about what happened. And they were like, no, you stayed here for 4 hours and we fed you and you paid and you just stayed with all of your detail and we couldn't get anybody in. You were costing us money. And that's when we asked you to leave. Like, it's just so stupid. But yeah. Sorry. I digress.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we're wrapped up again. We are the Comic Book Bears podcast. You can find us on most social media outlets as Comic Book Bears. You can find us on Facebook as Comic Book Bears Podcast. If you want to listen to us, you can do so through Apple Podcasts, through Spotify, and many of the other podcasting platforms. If you want to write to us, please do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. If you watch us through Facebook Live or one of the other feeds, thank you. If you are watching us later on a YouTube channel, please like and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Billy Z.
I'm Steve Morey.
I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
If you're listening to the audio version, you're going to hear a wolf and an explosion. We'll be back real soon. Take care, everyone.